All right, ladies and gents, we are live and we got some breaking news today. There has just been a mass evacuation plan announced for this EU country. We've also got escalation on the EU border. I want to go into some of those stories in a moment. Also, I was watching an interview with the Serbian president. He doesn't do a huge amount of interviews, but some of the things he was saying to this interview I was listening to earlier were pretty worrying, I would say. I highly recommend watching that interview. And he was talking about why he's been kind of ostracized within the EU at the moment because he was part of these meetings. And he says, it's all talk about war and getting troops ready and equipment and planes and everything else. He says, there's no peace talks. And every time anyone tries to propose peace talks, they're just shot down and called all sorts of, names like, you're a Russian or what sympathizer or whatever. If they even try and talk about peace, how do we get to peace? So it's quite an interesting thing. And the other thing that was worrying about the interview was he said that he thinks within 3 months, this sort of timeline, he said we could be in Europe in a full-scale war with Russia and the Allies. That, I really hope he is wrong on that. I mean, he's an intelligent man, but I really hope he is wrong. And this is why I was reading some of the comments. People were saying, why aren't you covering economics and stock market and all this other stuff at the minute? Mainly because I think this is a lot more important that I cover this stuff as to what is happening on a day-to-day basis, because so many people are fast asleep. I speak to people every day and they say, no, what do you mean? War or conflict. No. This is all just going to go away. I've heard everything from Russia's going to surrender soon to China's not interested in Taiwan. They're too afraid. I've heard everything you can imagine about why nothing's going to happen and whatever. I just think many people, I don't know, they're living in this dream world, fast asleep, and they can't see what's happening. That's why I'm showing you day by day the different escalations and events, because it is getting more serious all the time. But I don't know. I don't get it. People in the street are they're sleepwalking into, they don't even see what's going on. I was talking to someone about because I was in the UK a little while ago. I said, this one city I went to, I felt like the only guy there. It was just mass migration in the city, just groups of people just sat around doing whatever. I said it just felt really strange because I've been to the city a lot of time. I felt like I was the only English guy walking through. It was funny, really. It was ridiculous. That's how crazy it was. But people say, what? They say, what do you mean? What do you mean? I don't understand. What do you see? I'm like, what am I? Anyway, people are losing it. But let's get on to these stories today. Maybe it's just me. I mean, I don't know. First one then, Romania. We talked about this yesterday. It's now been confirmed. Romania confirms these Russian drones in its airspace. Ukraine's Air Force said 3 Russian Shahed kamikaze drones crossed the border. So they have confirmation. They actually have the parts now. So yesterday we said we weren't sure. There's claims, but we do have confirmation. So what actually happened was Russia launched these 38 drones at Ukraine overnight, 3 of which strayed into Romania's airspace. So this is where the issue is coming in. It's this, invisible line, as it were. Ukraine's air defense systems managed to shoot down 25 of the drones. They said in this statement, 3 of the drones crossed the border, which was heavily bombed overnight. The authorities asked the public not to panic, saying the Russian drones were not specifically targeting Romania. Oh, thank goodness. That's good to hear. 2 Finnish Air Force F-18 jets were dispatched from a Romanian airbase during the night to monitor the situation, Romania's defense ministry said in a statement. Teams of the Ministry of National Defense are currently conducting investigations in the field to search for possible objects that fell on the national territory as a result of the attacks conducted on the Ukrainian port infrastructure over the last 2 nights. In recent days, NATO has further intensified monitoring and surveillance measures, including through air patrols. NATO's allies stand in full solidarity with Romania. Okay, so they're making a strong statement here. But this is what's just come out. NATO nation preparing mass evacuation plans for a Russian invasion. So we just got this news at the moment that's just come out. NATO member state Lithuania is drawing up plans for a mass evacuation of civilians in this preparation of war breaking out. And they're saying now this is very likely. And we know what happens. If any NATO members are attacked, well, we don't want to say what happens next. I think we all know. The measures are the latest adopted by members of the NATO military alliance to protect against potential Russian attack. Moscow has accused the alliance of involvement in the war by providing Kyiv with military assistance and weapons. Well, I don't think it's a claim, an accusation. That is what is happening. The West is providing weapons. I'm not sure why they say it's an accusation. In response, the Baltic states, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia signed an agreement in January to create a common defense line with anti-mobility infrastructure elements to bolster NATO's eastern border with Russia and Putin's ally Belarus. Lithuania's interior ministry was cited by public broadcaster LRT as saying on Thursday that authorities should be prepared to relocate a quarter of the country's population of 2.6 million, giving priority to pregnant women, families with young children, and people with disabilities. So again, where will everybody go? They will go to neighboring countries, international transfer. So this is an interesting thing that it looks like we're going to see as well. It looks as though we're going to see this mass movement across Europe of different countries. As we initially saw with Ukraine, we saw this mass movement of peoples going to other nations, crossing the border. Some were accepted. There was different quotas for different countries. Even where I live, Isle of Man, there are a number of Ukrainian people here. Each country took different people. So I think this is one thing that we are going to see. We're going to see this. We're going to see this mass movement of peoples now. So let's carry on with the story. In the event of an air raid, they're talking about creating all of these new siren systems and everything as well. They're going to be installing warning sirens. The purpose of sirens has been clear for many years. Well, we had this in World War II. London, this is what saved a lot of people, these sirens. So they're going to be installing what they say is old technology again, but it works. It alerts people. 41 sirens have been installed in the city of Vilnius. They cover approximately 30% of the city's territory. In neighboring Baltic state Latvia, anti-tank concrete pyramids known as Dragon's Teeth are being installed along its border with Russia. These were first used in World War II. They're made of reinforced concrete and they're used to impede the advance of tanks and mechanized infantry. They describe the obstacles being procured and transported to temporary storage areas near Latvia's borders in accordance with the Eastern Border Fortification and Counter Mobility Plan that was approved in March. Now, we've also had this that's just come out, which I thought was a big deal until I kind of read it and said, there's not a huge issue here. But NORAD has just intercepted Russian and Chinese bombers operating together near Alaska. So if you read, this is a CNN story, so you read it at first and you're like, wow, what actually happened? What did they do? They crossed the airspace. No, they were just in normal airspace somewhere near Alaska, but the US obviously does not like these two countries flying near to Alaska. They said, though, it's not seen as a threat. The US and Canada, which together comprise NORAD, intercepted the bombers. They were both Chinese and Russian bombers, but they did not enter US or Canadian airspace, NORAD has said. The intercept was carried out by F-16 and 35 fighter jets, as well as Canadian CF-18 fighter jets. Imagine that. That would have been crazy if anything happened there. And the footage is quite interesting to see as well. On Thursday, China's defense military said the Chinese and Russian air forces had organized a joint strategic aerial patrol in the relevant airspace of the Bering Sea as part of an existing annual cooperation plan between the two militaries, further testing and enhancing the level of cooperation between the two air forces. as well as deepening strategic mutual trust and practical cooperation between the two countries. Yes, because we know that they are now a military alliance, even though it's not official. The action is not aimed at third parties. It's in line. This always makes me laugh when I see this. This action is not aimed at third parties. Of course it's not. No. You just fly bombers. you just fly bombers into someone else's airspace, or near someone's airspace. It's not targeted at any other third parties. It's not an exercise as to how you would drop bombs and getting used to the area. No. It's just, there's no reason for it. It's just for fun. Yeah, of course it is. Right. And they say it's nothing to do with the current international situation. No, of course not. Russia insisted the exercise was part of the 2024 military cooperation plan. And again, they reiterated what China said. It's not directed against third countries. Of course not. We also had this one. These NATO states are embracing conscription, eyeing future war with Russia. Let's have a look at this then. As NATO escalates its war in Ukraine and inches closer to fighting directly with Russia. So obviously, some of these are more left or right-leaning articles than others. I'm just trying to bring some balance, obviously. The Washington-led bloc is embracing mandatory military service. Many European members of NATO have expanded or reintroduced conscription as part of large-scale preparations for such a war. Already outpaced in terms of military industrial capacity by Russia, the alliance's new battle plans will see an attempt to beef up weapons production and form 35 to 50 brigades of 3,000 to 7,000 battle-ready troops. What they're actually saying there is 3,000 to 7,000 troops per brigade, not in total. That's like 1 day's worth of troops there. It's not a lot. So what did Jens have to say then? He's the outgoing NATO Secretary General. Today we have 500,000 troops on high readiness. You see, they didn't even announce this. They just did it. Combat-ready battle groups in the eastern part of the alliance, or what they mean is towards Russia. So it's closer to the border now. But the bloc is struggling to meet its goal of assembling 300,000 soldiers prepared to be activated within a month and another 500,000 within 6 months. There's also the question of whether the bloc can field, I think that's supposed to say, a military fit for protracted war, similar to... Who is this, by the way? That's not Joe Biden. He looks different every time I see Joe Biden. That is not Joe Biden. Oh, goodness me. This year, for the first time, since it was abolished in 2006, Latvia has re-implemented its draft. Well, yeah, they are on the border, so it makes sense. Male citizens are subject to conscription within a year of turning 18. Additionally, Norway has unveiled a long-term plan to increase its risk of mandatory conscription. Here's the difference. This is a gender-neutral draft for Norway. Lithuania has also brought back mandatory military service. Finnish Defence Force they have the ability to activate 900,000 reservists. That's quite a lot of troops. Sweden conscripts both men and women as well. Stockholm drafted 7,000 citizens, and the military expects to conscript 8,000 next year. So this is really, really ramping up, ladies and gents. The risk of direct war with Russia is growing by the day amidst the Ukraine proxy wars, they say. The alliance has largely approved NATO missiles to be used for attack. We've covered all of this already, actually. This is now the next escalation. NATO sets its sight on China 4 years ago, identifying Beijing as a military threat to European security. China maintains a no-limits partnership with Russia. Interesting. Okay, last couple then. Here we go. Let's see how many we can get through. No love for Hungary in friendship pipeline dispute as Brussels refuses to lobby Kyiv to let the oil flow. So we've now got a dispute. This has just come out this afternoon. The European Commission said it needs more time to review the ongoing situation in Ukraine after Kyiv prevented Russian oil from going through its territory to the European Union. You say, I thought they sanctioned all the oil. I thought they weren't letting all the Russian oil come through. Yeah, that's what they say, but they are actually, the Russian oil is coming through. It has been for a long, long time. So what you see is one thing in public and another thing behind closed doors. So yeah, the pipeline is still flowing. But what's happening is there's now Ukraine, what they're saying, the claims are that Ukraine is stopping the flow, it's flowing through Ukraine. So now some of the other EU nations are upset about this. They're saying we need this flow, we don't agree to, it being closed, etc. It's quite complex. I won't go through the whole thing, but they're saying that Ukraine's turned the tap off on the friendship pipeline. They've lobbied the European Commission, but the Vice President has said that they're going to look into it and assess if any action is warranted. The stalling is no surprise, as Brussels is in no mood to cater to Hungary, given its refusal to send arms to Ukraine and blocking past sanctions against Russia, not to mention attempts to block financial payments to Ukraine as well. And then they talk about what we've talked about this week, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban's recent peace mission to Kyiv, Moscow and Beijing is just the latest thorn in Brussels' side. I think we've got a couple more stories, but we've still got some stuff to cover tomorrow, actually. There's just so much going on at the moment that it's unbelievable. And I'll be releasing the next module of the program tomorrow as well. So just letting you know, because everyone keeps emailing. When's the next module? Every Saturday, the module comes out around lunchtime UK time. So we've got the next module of the program coming out tomorrow. This is going to be really good, exciting. We're getting into the blueprints. We're getting into everything. Amazing stuff. So thank you so much for watching. Take care. God bless. And that's you up to date today. I'll catch up with you tomorrow.